Okay, hello everyone. Sorry about that. A bit of a glitch there. It seems like we got booted out of the room. But my name is Joe Cisco. I'm just going to take a moment and start recording, which we're doing. Okay, so we're recording. We're good to go. So, welcome again, everyone. It is now 10 o'clock, 10:01 on my computer actually, and welcome to our final session for secondary teachers on portfolio and differentiation with Brightspace. So, really excited for our final session here today. I'm getting a little bit emotional because it's been so fun. I'm going to miss doing this for till next Tuesday when we start to work with some New York teachers. But great to have you here today. Thank you again for showing up on our final session here today, and just some introductory pieces which I'll get to right now. So welcome again. I see a lot of people are sort of coming back in right now. Maybe I'll try to go as slow as I can in terms of introductions here. So my name is Joe Cisco again, and if you've been with us all week, thank you, and thanks for being patient listening to the same sort of introduction each time. But if you're brand new, there's my contact information there. If you have any questions, you can email K12Ontario or K12Ontario at d2l.com. A little bit about me. I have been involved in education for more than 30 years. Currently, I'm obviously a D2L trainer, but in my former life, I was a high school math and science teacher in the Windsor-Essex Catholic District School Board. I then had the opportunity to work with K-12 teachers in their classrooms. I was basically a consultant for technology, working closely with Brightspace and lots of different tech tools, but was right in the classroom on the front line with teachers. A lot of fun and lots of great learning for me. I then sort of graduated onto the Ministry of Education, where I worked with Technology-Enabled Learning Ontario, which is a unit at the ministry. And essentially we did the same thing, but worked with all teachers in the province and all sort of different levels of educators, which was a great learning experience again. I currently work with teacher candidates at the University of Windsor at the Faculty of Education. So lots of great experience. I love sharing here, and I'm always learning, and it's been a great ride here. So welcome again. And as we move forward here, hopefully that we don't get too many more participants popping in. I see the numbers are still going, but that's great. So one small thing, the chat has been disabled. I'm flying solo here, so please understand that I'm not ignoring you. Actually, I am ignoring you, but I'm not gonna be able to field your questions, but you have my contact information there. And I've actually been receiving lots of sort of people reaching out on Twitter and on email. So please feel free to do that. A couple of housekeeping items. If you haven't heard already, each of your boards has a person called a TELT contact, or a technology-enabled learning and teaching contact. That person is your go-to person for all things Brightspace. So please know if you have any questions, you can contact that person. If you don't know who that person is, I will show you how to find out who that person is later on and get you that person's contact information. During today's presentation, I'll show you how to do that. If you have any questions, again, please email us at that address. And know that these webinar recordings and slide decks are available on the same site that you registered. So a few people are asking me, where can I find these recordings and these slide decks? They will be posted as timely as possible on that same site that you registered. But if you send me a message, I can clarify where those things are. And in terms of support, I think it's very important you understand that we're here to support you. This is a webinar, obviously, to get you inspired and so on, but at the same time, this is just the start of a conversation where hopefully you're feeling good that you can contact us anytime and get that support, and we'll also provide links to numerous resources that are very, very directed to whomever you happen to be teaching. Our agenda for today, I'm going to revisit our important goal that I've had all week, and I'll talk about that momentarily. The first question I'm asking you is success. So hopefully if you've joined the previous sessions, you're now able to navigate around Brightspace. You're now able to build maybe your own lessons. You can have lots of good communication with your students. And I also added the second question, or are you still growing? If you're an Ontario educator, hopefully you got the connection between growing success. Part of our discussion today will be about a lot of the assessment evaluation sort of ideas contained in growing success. Really at this moment, you're probably asking yourself, how are they doing? And if you think about the workflow, you've got to know Brightspace, you've created and posted some content maybe, and then at some point just stop and do a little check. Where are we doing? How are they doing? Are they engaging with the content? Are they learning? You know, and we need that spot check-in or that formative assessment. And then, you know, to borrow a phrase from Growing Success, If you're an Ontario educator, you're probably familiar with the terms assessment for, as, and of learning, and we will focus on that today and how some of the tools of Brightspace can help meet each of those needs. Excuse me, and last but not least, probably one of the most important pieces is how do we differentiate our instruction, our assessment, and the learning for our students. So that's a big piece there, and it's a great agenda. I love this session because it really speaks to a lot of what teachers do and they're doing already, but then how can Brightspace sort of support that? And then in terms of sharing resources, I have a good session at the end, a good section at the end that talks about all the resources you can access and how you can get those readily available for yourself to be learning and continue to learn all year. So the important goal I've spoken about all week is that you feel comfortable in this space. And I'm so glad to be able to sort of keep this as my goal. I was speaking with my manager yesterday and she said, you know, that is a great goal actually, to have the people feel comfortable. And a lot of the feedback I'm getting from my fellow Ontario colleagues is that now that I have that comfort level, I can feel confident moving forward inside of Brightspace. I think number one, a lot of people sometimes feel it's a black box and they don't have that control. They feel like the tool is controlling them as opposed to them controlling the tool. And I'm hoping at the end of these 4 sessions that you feel like you're in control. You're the instructional leader in your face-to-face classroom. You need to also be that leader inside of the virtual classroom. And I'm hoping again that comfort level and that control piece is something that you've accomplished. And if I've helped you get there, then I feel great that I've gotten you there. Finally, my last goal, or my secondary goal would be, is that I hope to inspire you a little bit, to feel like, oh, wow, geez, look at all these tools I can use and so on, and to challenge you and get you out of your comfort zone. So I'm giving you the confidence, hopefully, to say, yeah, I was shown how to do the assignments tool, but I really want to investigate the quizzes tool. Hopefully you have the confidence to do it, and you see that Brightspace has a very intuitive platform that can let you do that. So those are our goals. Some key terms. Again, I'm going to ask you, if you've taken part in some previous sessions, thank you for your patience, but I do want to clarify these for our new attendees today, if there are new attendees. We're going to have lots of terms that we use. D2L is a term. They're the company, which resides in Kitchener, Ontario. The product they provide for all Ontario educators is Brightspace, and not just Ontario educators, but around the world. So D2L is the company, Brightspace is the product. A lot of the times those terms are used interchangeably, and that's fine. A lot of people call it my D2L or my Brightspace, and that's fine. But please know that D2L is actually the company and Brightspace is the product that you're using. Not really a term, but a space is our Brightspace community. And please consider at the end of today's session joining our Brightspace community if you haven't already. It's a wonderful, active community where lots of D2Lers contribute, but lots of people from our educational community contribute as well. And I think that's one of the most pleasing things to me, to see Ontario educators on their own time contributing to a space that's just out to help other educators. I see people on Twitter and so on in the social media world really contributing their spaces or contributing their expertise. Shout out to one of my colleagues, Jeff Cummings, who was able to, after following yesterday's session, a person was having trouble, posted on Twitter. The Brightspace community people reached out and helped that person, as well as Jeff, who also provided something for that educator. So the community that we're building here is awesome, and I'm glad you're hoping to become part of that. Another important term is Ontario's VLE, which stands for Ontario's Virtual Learning Environment, provided for us by the Ministry of Education, funded through them, but certainly a collaborative effort from D2L and the Ministry of Education, which is really great at really meeting the unique needs of Ontario's education community. Because D2L is a monster company that goes all around the world, but we have this great niche in Ontario that D2L and the Ontario Ministry of Education has provided that platform for all students and educators in publicly funded schools. Awesome. So let's pop into growing success for a moment here. And as an educator, one of the pieces that we do or are sort of asked to do or invited to do from Growing Success, the assessment and evaluation reporting document for Ontario schools, is to obtain a variety of means a variety of assessments using things like, discussions, questioning, conferences, homework, of course, quizzes, and so on. I get that. And portfolios, which is one of the pieces we'll talk about today. I know as a secondary math teacher, I struggled a lot in this area, very much relied on a quiz, relied on a test, and so on. But in a virtual world, Brightspace allows us to really actually capture a lot of these types of things, maybe sometimes in an easier way. So interesting that the tools of Brightspace can help us meet the needs or the mandate of growing success. Another piece I'd like to share with you is there's a wonderful section about assessment for, of, and as learning. And the way it's structured is very nicely in the sense that they talk about what is the purpose of your assessment, what is the nature of the assessment you're actually doing, whether it's diagnostic or formative, and then what do you use that information for? So if you have not taken a chance to dive into those, please take a moment and dive into the Growing Success document. I know it was created in 2010. Not necessarily mean that all of you have had exposure to that, but it is a wonderful document and still very, very relevant, even though it's 10 years old. Very, very good document there. So in terms of today's agenda and our learning today, you can see on the left, there's our learning needs. So I think, again, a lot of teachers are thinking, this is what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to collect evidence of student progress and do lots of formative assessment in my classroom. As you can see, there's lots of tools that can do that, including assignments and quizzes and surveys and self-reflections. What we're going to focus today is how can Portfolio be the tool that we use to collect those learning needs that I have there. So again, this is an invitation. We're not going to spend some time on quizzes and surveys, but hopefully, again, it's intuitive enough and inviting enough that you'd say, you know what, I'm going to investigate quizzes next week. So the second piece is assessment of learning. So sort of that final piece, you're at the end of a learning cycle and you want to collect some formal evidence of where those students are. And we can talk about how the assignment tool can do that. And again, lots of tools that can do that for you. And then in the last piece, differentiating your instruction, your assessment, and your learning opportunities in your classroom. Again, lots of different tools that can do that for you inside of Brightspace. But we're going to focus today on how groups can do that for you today. So that's sort of our trajectory for today. Our learning model for today, I'd like to speak about for a moment. If you've been involved in these 4 sessions, we sort of transitioned from the how to the why. So on that first day, we really, really took some time about how to navigate the Brightspace learning environment. I really want to take that time, and I know it was maybe a longer session for something that seems very easy to you right now, but I think you needed to gain that confidence and needed to see the how of doing that. Today, we're graduating more towards that how. So an example I can give, for instance, is I don't think I need to spend too much time on the HTML editor, because if you've been with us, you've seen that editor quite often as we're going through here, and hopefully that editor is becoming intuitive to you. But maybe the bigger question we're asking yourself is, why are we doing this stuff today? And maybe that's going to be driving where you're going forward, and answering those questions is something that you probably have those questions, but I want to help you answer those today. So more focus on the why and maybe a little less focus on the how. So let's talk about what is Portfolio. So Portfolio is a tool that empowers students to independently capture evidence of their learning. And you can see on the right there, they have a mobile device, they have a phone, they have like an iPad, I guess, or a tablet, and they also have a computer. So these are available. The Portfolio is available on all 3 of those devices and works great. And you can see that this Portfolio tool is best for documenting processing growth. So again, if you were looking forward here, we've done the content piece, we've done the communication piece. Let's take a moment and see where they are. Portfolio is wonderful for that. Gathering some formative assessment, which as you know, as an educator, may or may not have a grade attached to it. I just want to check in to see how you're doing. The last 2 pieces are amazing. This is a tool that can allow you to create some student-centered digital portfolios. So I love the term student-centered. As certainly as primary educators or as elementary educators, I know that student-centered piece is so good. We want to empower our students to be that director of their own learning, and Portfolio can do that, which is also cultivating that active learner piece. I think one of the things we struggle with as students go on in school is they become a little bit inactive or disengaged. This is certainly cultivating that piece and empowering those students to become those active learners. So it can do all of these things. But I was sharing my presentation with my manager yesterday, and she said, what we really like about this tool is this. Um, all of these great things are going on in your classroom already. You are documenting that progress and growth. You are doing that formative assessment. What we want you to know is that D2L is now providing a tool that can work alongside with you to support what you're doing there. So please know that this is not a creation of something brand new you have to learn. It's more of a recreation or a reimagining and reframing of what you're probably already doing in your classroom. So why use Portfolio? I've investigated these a little bit, but here's some of the things, again, that you as an educator are probably already doing. Making things student-centered. The second bullet is really important. This does travel with the student year over year. So if you're wondering, why would I want to use this? This may be one of the most compelling reasons. If you're teaching grade 4 right now, and you have the luxury or opportunity to maybe have your students contribute even a couple artifacts to this portfolio this year, think of how wonderful that would be next year when the grade 5 teacher gets to the student and says, oh, I have a student that contributed to their portfolio. I can now take a look at that stuff. I can only imagine what that would look like in grade 6 or 7 when the students really gain that facility with that and get good at it. Pedagogical documentation is huge for all of our primary teachers, as well as most of our elementary teachers, and Brightspace Portfolio is amazing for that. It's great for access for all different types of learners. So, you know, your early readers or your non-readers, just speaking with language is great. So for our different types of learners, this is a wonderful tool for providing that access for all of them. Certainly it speaks to the metacognitive piece in the sense that this is what it's all about. It invites learners to share their ideas and what they're thinking about in a fun sort of way. And lastly, what a great tool for providing that or setting up that infrastructure for student-led conferences and parent-teacher night. It's sometimes the highlight of a teacher's early career when they have those parent-teacher nights and they're very nervous, but what an opportunity to have those student-led conferences during those interviews. Where, hey, now I'm getting, I've got all this evidence gathered, it's student driven, and the student really feels empowered to sort of demonstrate what they know. So let's take a look right away. Let's jump into a learning environment and let's take a look at what this actually looks like. So I'm gonna pop over to my Principles of Mathematics, the one course we've been working in all week. And I have my text-based navigation bar, and I'm going to navigate to my portfolio. Again, you can have portfolio right in the navigation bar if you wish, but you can always know that it's always available inside of here. Sorry about that. To move this down. Sorry, I've got some way here. I can't see this. So what I'm going to do here is I actually don't have it in here. I'm going to put it on my navigation bar. I'm very sorry about that. I thought I had that on there. So let me add this link. I'll add portfolio right now. I thought I had done that. Great. And I'll say add. And I will save and close. Okay, thank you for that. So let me pop it in the portfolio. So I am the teacher and I have students in my class, but you'll notice there's my students, but they actually don't have any evidence. And what I wanted to show you here was what it looks like when you as the educator do not have any evidence from students and what it looks like just from the beginning. So when you click on that portfolio link, it will bring you to the portfolio area where all of your students will be listed there. And there are some sort of tabs underneath each of these. If you mouse over them, Woodstock the bird has no evidence collected. The evidence is shared with parents, there's none, and there's unapproved evidence, there's none. These would have little numbers over them. So if I click here and if I say I want to approve some evidence, if I click here, it's going to give me a list of all my students. And you'll notice that it says, you're all caught up, Joe Cisco. There's no unapproved evidence. Again, I'm showing you this intentionally to say the students have not contributed anything to this. You as the educator can do a couple of things inside of here. When you click on the settings menu, this is where you can control some of the things. Use friendly Funster avatars instead of profile photos. That is more geared towards elementary. But one of the key pieces you want to look at here is this evidence approval. So great. And there's also category management, which is probably key at the secondary level. If you say, I would really, really like my students to to do a lab in science, and I want them to upload some evidence to their portfolio of some of the observations they might have observed in a certain experiment. I could put a category there, and if my students submit those artifacts, I could tag them all with that category, and then all of a sudden, anytime I want to say, listen, it was lab number 1 on boiling points, I can click back there and get that very quickly. So please know that you do have some settings that you can control in there, which I think are useful for you to navigate through the first time you ever use this. So again, in the portfolio page, if you're brand new to this, there's not going to be anything there because the students haven't done anything yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop out to a course where I do have some. The people at D2L have been kind enough to create a course where we have some actual evidence that has been uploaded by some mock students, and I'm going to pop out to there. And this is the course. So it does look slightly different. You may notice the icon-based nav bar. This is definitely more towards elementary, but that's okay. When I click on portfolio, it brings me to the portfolio. And I do have the students listed there. And you'll notice in this situation, there's now some numbers here. So Woodstock the bird has 5 pieces of evidence collected. The evidence shared with parents is 2, and so on. And I think you get the idea there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into here and I'm going to click on approve evidence. So you'll notice here, I have 37 pieces of evidence in the whole class. Woodstock has 4, Sally has 9, Charlie Brown has 13, and so on and so on. I think you get the idea. And I'm looking here at this mini Megan here. I'm going to click in here and say, I'm going to see what this looks like, what Megan has uploaded. So there's Megan's file there. Great, it was a picture of this, and she's included an audio file of what she's done. And again, you click the audio file, you could listen to what the person said. This is only 12 seconds again, because this is a bit of a demonstration, but students can upload a number of files about their observations of what their artifact was. They can also type a reflection. Certainly at the secondary level, students have the ability to type those reflections, which is great. And on the right, you're going to notice there's the feedback here. And I think this is a wonderful piece. So when I click here and say, I could click and leave a comment for Sally. Please notice that this feedback is shared with both Sally and you. So Sally will see that there. That's feedback that's out there. You can add a rubric, which is brilliant. So if you're interested in adding a rubric, you can assess that person's upload there and give them some feedback there. You can also add expectations, which is awesome. So if you say, you know, I've added some expectations to my course, which we saw yesterday. Let's say it's all about this. I add those there. And when I do that, I can then assess them and say, in this expectation, you were level 4. Awesome. Might have some work there to do. You could then go back and add some comments about why they achieved the levels that they did. Really, really user-friendly, really, really awesome here. There is an educator-only section, which is awesome. So when I click here, I can say, I want to add some private educator notes. Only you can see or shared with your colleagues. So if you have colleagues here that are working with you, they can also see those notes. And you'll notice there's a parent sharing piece, which is again part of Brightspace for parents. So hopefully you're saying to yourself, wow, this is a very, very robust tool. And it very much is. Students upload content, or upload artifacts and demonstrate their learning, which is sometimes video, sometimes audio, and certainly some text reflections if they want to, and then you as the educator can then can sort those or categorize those, and then categories can actually be added by the student. So lots and lots of good tools inside of there, just to sort of keep you feeling that this isn't going to be too overwhelming for you. Often as an educator, you're seeing students build those artifacts and so on. So in terms of actually checking them out and approving those, you could say, you know what, these students have done all this, I'm going to approve all of them quickly. They're all going to be approved. So please don't think that because you see the number 36 there, you necessarily have to say, geez, that's going to take me a long time to go through that. You don't necessarily have to do that. If they were all the same type of evidence, I want to approve them all, and they're going to be in their portfolio, which is awesome, right? So the next piece which I want to go here to is, you probably noticed this print class pass cards. So this is a great tool here. So when I print these pass cards, watch what we get. I have a class passcode. So this would be used for if I have a singular device in the classroom. Let's say I have a singular iPad assigned to me, or maybe my own iPad. Excuse me, I'm going to scan that QR code. That's going to now allow the iPad to access all the students in my class. These other passcodes would be individual ones. So if you said, hey, Lucy, we did something really good here in class, I'd like you to document that. Lucy walks over to a wall where you may have that posted, or comes over to your computer and says, scans in her QR code using the class device, and then she can add some evidence to her portfolio. So these things can be posted in student books or on the wall and so on. And again, please understand what I'm trying to impress upon you here is really, really easy in terms of setting it up. But collecting the evidence is a different thing, and I'll click over and show you how to collect that evidence. So when you collect the evidence, probably the best way to collect that, you could collect it through actually the web version right on a computer through Brightspace. Probably the best way to collect it is on the Portfolio app, which is available on the App Store or Google Play. Really quick download, you just look for the leaf. The app is designed to facilitate the collection of evidence, photos, video, student audio reflections, and so on. That's what it's designed to collect. It's pretty much a fancy camera, and if you can use Instagram, you can use the app. But it's a wonderful camera in the sense that it's for our educational purposes here. It's an amazing app. Multiple modes to support all ages and abilities, which we saw earlier with different sort of interfaces. And then what students would do is they would then go manage their evidence on the web version of Brightspace. So students would take some time, take the app, upload some stuff, go onto Brightspace and manage that stuff, if you want to call it that. They're all of their artifacts. The app looks like this. When students log in, they choose if they're using a class device, whether they're using their own device, which is likely for secondary students. A lot of students will have a phone. Literally can take out their phone and document some evidence and upload it right to their portfolio. I think if you embark upon the journey of using Portfolio with your secondary classes, you'll be really, really pleased at how simple it is. And it will be a transition in your classroom about how much the students actually take charge of their own learning, and they'll be asking you, can I please upload this to my portfolio? And of course the answer would be yes. And there's a final mode there, family device, which is probably more for students that are younger age, having to log in with different parent emails and so on. Quickly, as you choose this, every mode has the opportunity to choose the Funster mode. So if I have any elementary teachers in our session today, they can certainly use one where it's a little more user-friendly and age-appropriate, where the prompts are more exciting and more geared towards primary students. I'm going to leave you with this. There's a number of 1-minute workflows that will walk you through all of these, which is really, really showing you exactly what it looks like live. They're all 1-minute videos. I posted 5 of them here. The site looks like this. I will give you the link to this later. When you click out to the 1-minute workflows, maybe I'll click out there quickly and show you. There's a whole bunch of workflows showing you how each of these work, and they're literally 1 minute. So if a student says, I want to see what an elementary student looks like using Portfolio, that's what it would look like, and they'll show you that right away. And there's a whole bunch of videos on there. Okay, back to our community here. I do want to take some time, and I want to show you, sorry about that. I want to show you now, I want to discuss groups. So we are secondary teachers. Let me go back into our Principles of Mathematics course and let's talk about groups. So you're a secondary teacher and you want to start differentiating your instruction. So I know we talked in an earlier session about sections. So if you're teaching, say, 2 sections of grade 10 academic math or 2 sections of grade 9 English, this is different. This is about groups. So within your own singular class, you may say, I want to create some groups. I want students to work in groups. I want to have a discussion where only certain groups are allowed, groups of 4 are allowed to talk to each other. In a physical classroom, it's really easy. In a virtual classroom, it's also very easy. Probably one of the greatest examples I've seen about this is a teacher where she said she was teaching law, and she wanted to have groups where the students were either part of the prosecution, part of the defense, maybe part of the judge and jury. And she wanted to create 4 groups where students were put in those groups, and then they would only be able to correspond with each other inside of there in a virtual world. She was very creative. And what she did was she actually gave the students to work sort of in class, but just sort of spread apart, but in Brightspace. And she created those groups, and they were able to correspond with each other. What I want to show you is how that actually looks inside of there. So I'm going to the way to get there is you could put groups on your navigation bar as I put portfolio up there, but if you go to course administration, that will of course be one of your choices. So when I click on groups, I do have the sections are there showing me for you, and I don't want to be confused in that one, but I'm going to make a new category, and I'll show you how quick this is. I'm going to call these trial groups. Okay, and I could put a description, and again, I'm seeing that HTML editor. I hope that's becoming very comfortable for you. The major button you need to talk about here is this enrollment type. So how do I want to enroll my students? So a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. If you take the time to investigate these, they will make a lot of sense to you, but hopefully it makes sense to you that if I want to say, I want to have a number of groups, but no auto enrollments. In other words, I want to, as the teacher, put the students in the groups that I want. And I want 4 groups. So you might say, I want 4 groups, no auto enrollments. I want groups of 5 kids. I want 4 groups, but they would be auto enrolled. I'm going to choose I could choose the first one. I do want to highlight the last one, which is single user member specific groups. What's brilliant about that is you can create a group of 1. So say you have students have individual education plans and you say, you know what, I want to have a group where I want to just be able to communicate with that one student that has an IEP, and I want to release content or I want to release an announcement to only that particular student. I can do that very quickly inside of here. So please know that the way you choose the enrollment type, there's lots of great options, but it's very strategic and it's something you can choose there very nicely. So I'm going to say number of groups. I would like 4 groups, and I can give it a group prefix. I'll skip that. And I'm just going to say auto enroll new users, which means that every time someone comes in my class, they're going to go with that, and I'll randomize the users. Great. Here's the brilliant piece. If I set up discussion areas, it's literally going to make discussion areas for me that they can have those discussions right inside of there. Right now I have a group, I have a forum called there. I'm going to make a new forum, and I'm going to call it trial groups. Okay, and I'll save that, and I'll choose trial groups, and I'm going to save this. Because I've asked us to set up discussions, what do I want? Do I want 1 topic that are separated by group? No, I want 1 topic per group. Each group has a separate restricted topic, and I'm going to say create. 1 discussion forum was created, forum topics were not created, and I'll say done. And I'll say save that. So now I have this, and you'll see I have trial groups, group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. I could rename those to prosecution, defense, judge, jury, and all of those students would be put inside that group. Just for fun, I'm going to rename this group to prosecution, and I'm going to say save. Because the cool part about it is if, and I look at the members of this group, if Pigpen, Dave Stone, or Snoopy log into here, they will automatically put in the prosecution group and they won't even see the other groups. So if Dave Stone were to log into here, he would immediately be placed in the prosecution group and he would only be able to participate in that discussion, which is absolutely brilliant. Okay, so please know that when you create groups, you can then force those things to go to different students. I know I created the discussion one right inside of there, but if you wanted to create a new announcement and say, I want to say something to just the prosecution. I want to remind them of something. So if I say, hey, prosecution, during our trial talks this week, I need you to focus on this. And you could put something in the content. Please make sure that, and you get the idea. I could have availability, I could have attachments way at the bottom. I can release this to only that group there. So when I say create and attach, I'm going to say what condition type, lots of different choices. I'm going to go group enrollment. Which group? I want it to go to the prosecution group. So if I say create, so look what I've done here. I've made an announcement that's going to be about some reminders for the group that are in prosecution to make sure you do this. And you have to be a member of that group to be able to receive that announcement. So when I say publish, and I go back to my course home here, I have an announcement that has conditionally released that speaks only to the prosecution. How brilliant would that be that, again, this creates the same experience for all the learners in my classroom. When any student in my class logs in, whether they're part of the prosecution, defense, judge, and jury, they are going to see the same page, but they're going to get an announcement that is specific to their role or their group they happen to be in. I know this might be a little bit of setup, but some of you are probably saying, wow, that would be really, really fun to do. And I'm sensing that, and I'm as I'm speaking to educators across the province here, is I'm finding that there's going to be more quality and less quantity, in the sense that teachers are trying to, because they're in a virtual world, are sort of resistant to the urge to have a whole bunch of things go out there, but really high quality, high level things here. If I'm teaching law, I would love to do this activity right here. I always want to teach a law class so I can do this. So finally, it's 10:36. I'm doing really well with time here. I'm happy where I am. Hopefully with groups, you're understanding the idea that I simply pop into my course admin, I go to groups, I can create a number of categories. Right now I have view categories, trial groups. So right now, here's my trial groups. And again, I customize prosecution, but I can create any number of groups, any number of categories, and they can be sending them out to students there. I create the groups. I then have the ability to release any item inside of here to those groups. Content, discussion, assignments, anything I would want there, which is brilliant. So let's pop over to assignments. I want to talk a little bit about why we do assignments. So here's my assignments right here. There's lots of assignments populated in this course because I imported some old content. So in the assignment area, there's lots of assignments here. As you can see, I've imported some content, but again, this is something that you can, if I clicked bulk edit here, I could probably delete all of these if I wanted to. Let me see. Ooh, do I want to do that? I don't want to delete those. No, not going to delete them. So in my assignment area, I can create a new assignment, but let's talk for a moment about why assignments. So one subtle thing, which I think is huge actually here, the assignment area used to be called the Dropbox area. And I think that D2L in its wisdom said, when we have it called Dropbox, it implies that students have to drop something in there. And so as an educator, you're probably saying, but I want to give kids assignments, but I don't always want them to hand something in. I literally just want to say, on every Friday, I want to assess where they are. I want to do a check-in with their learning skills. Or I'm a phys ed teacher and I want to do just some informal assessment. I'm watching them do an activity. I want to take some notes and make that into an assignment. That can be done inside of here. Or what if I'm teaching in a virtual world and students physically hand me a piece of paper? Could I assign that there? And the absolute answer is yes. So that's one piece why you might want to use the assignment tool inside of here, because it's very flexible in the sense that it will allow you to provide assessment on either actual physical virtual assignments to hand in or just informal assignments where nothing's actually attached to it. What I really like about it is allows you to provide context as well. Often when we give assignments, we literally hand the students a piece of paper, or in a virtual world, we say, here's a PDF, here's the assignment. It'd be really cool if you could provide context around there. So let me make a new assignment and show you how this works. When I click on new assignment, again, we get a whole bunch of tools available to us, which, you're probably hopefully getting very used to these tools at some point. I can give my assignment a name, so I could call this my assignment about critical thinking. So I would like to, as a teacher, take a few moments and just assess their critical thinking. So I'm going to call them over in groups of 2 or 3, and I'm going to say, listen, we're working on something brand new. I want you to share your thinking for me, and I'm going to give you a grade on that. I'm going to give you a grade out of 10 on where your critical thinking is. You'll notice you can have a due date and so on. You can have some instructions. You don't get the full editor, but you do have the ability here to add a video note. So I could add a video note here. So I could say, I want to take 30 minutes and explain to you what this is assignment about. I want to take 5 minutes and explain to you. How engaging would it be for the students to be able to hear your voice in that context there? Here's the piece which I think you're going to really appreciate. Availability and conditions. Yes, I can set due date and have some release conditions to certain groups if I want. The big piece here is submission and completion. And I'm going to focus here on file submission. I'm going to leave this menu open because look at your 4 choices. Hopefully you appreciate the importance of these 4 choices. Yes, the students can submit a file. So I could make this a thing where they actually physically have to submit a file. Or if they just want to type some text to me, sir, miss, haven't really prepared anything, but I just want to literally type something in there and hand it in to you. I can do that. The next two are pretty cool. You're in a physical classroom and students hand you a piece of paper. I can assess that right inside of here and give them a grade. It will be recorded inside of Brightspace. They can receive that feedback. Or something that's observed in person, which I do want to do here. So I'm going to say observed in person. And I think this is enough said. I'm going to say save and close. So I've now created an assignment called critical thinking that I'm going to assess them on. So I made the mistake here, of course, of not deleting those, but that's okay. So I'm going to go to the bottom, and there's my critical thinking assignment. No students have been assessed. I can click in here and say, let me go assess those students. I'm literally going to walk around the room and watch them as they're doing it, and I'm going to give them a grade about how they're doing. I can click evaluate. I can give them some feedback, and there it is. I can give them a mark out of there. If there's a rubric I can attach and so on, and I can give them the feedback right there. You'll notice I can record audio, I can record video, and I get full access to that HTML editor again. When I'm done with student 1, I can either save as draft or publish it. I can move on to student 2 and student 3 and so on. Awesome, awesome tool. Hopefully you're saying to yourself, well, I need to start using announcements or assignments if that's a possibility. So to wrap up today, this is what we did today. Hopefully you see that we can use these wonderful tools of portfolio, assignments, and groups to meet all the learning needs on the left. I do have a wonderful graphic I'm going to share with you. So this is a nice graphic of the tools that we focused on today, but there's a wonderful graphic that's been created by the people at D2L, which really organizes all the tools for Brightspace in a way that really meet the learning needs of us as teachers. So if I want to get started, there's some of the tools that I can talk about there. If I want to engage students, they talk about the activity feed and announcements and discussions, which we have looked at. And then specifically today, if I want to evaluate, assess, and monitor my students, they actually talk about portfolio. Absolutely. Quizzes, rubrics, which are all over most of the tools inside of Brightspace, certainly inside of assignments, and portfolio, which we can use. And then finally, on the end, if I want to differentiate my instruction, I can use some of the tools there. And we specifically talked about release conditions with respect to groups today. So wonderful graphic there, which really sort of gives you a great thumbnail view of all of the tools inside of Brightspace and how I can do really the broader things here about getting started, engaging my students, evaluating and monitoring, and differentiating. I'm going to repeat again, like I said yesterday, it is not the tool that we need to focus on here. It is those nice colored headings there that we need to focus on, and then how can those tools support our teaching. I'd like to say again as well, you're the expert here. You're not the tech expert. You're the educational expert. You're the teaching expert. And hopefully you realize that we have all these tools alongside me. They're going to make my job a lot easier. So moving forward here to finish up, it's 10:44. Give me about 5 minutes and I will sort of review some of the nice resources we can share here. If I don't have the chance, or if you happen to leave early, thank you for coming. It's been a wonderful 4 days for me. It's been fun to see so many educators inside of here participating in these sessions. So very quickly here, if you do not know who your TELT contact is, you can visit d2l.com, K-12 Ontario, and this is what it looks like. D2L, along with the Ontario Ministry of Education, has created this great site where it speaks to specifically Ontario educators' needs, gives you a little introduction there. If you need to know who your TELT contact is, you literally click down here and say, I belong to the Huron-Perth Catholic District School Board right here. So in that school board, Paul DeHont is my TELT contact. I personally know Paul, one of the great TELT contacts out there. He's been in the role for a number of years. If you're lucky enough to teach in that board and work with Paul, then congratulations. And there's also a link to the URL there. So if you click there, that would bring you right to the Huron-Perth Catholic District School Board login screen, and you would be able to log in. But please contact Paul if you're part of that board and you need help with any of these things. I do want to show you a little bit more of this site because There's lots of good stuff here. So if you've had a great week and said, geez, I'm going to start using Brightspace, and one of your friends says, I want to start using Brightspace along with you, send them over to here. It talks about what does the VLE offer, talks about all that there. And there's lots of good learning here. There's a video. There's a couple of testimonials from some educators in the field. And then at the bottom, there's actually some training for people. So some great training here and resources. When I click on the training here, you'll notice it brings us to this wonderful site here. And I think this is great because it's very interactive. I actually love the menu, the way they do the menu here. And as you scroll down, there's a section about getting started. There's a video, there's a slide deck. There's some 1-minute workflows, which we've seen. And there's a takeaway activity, which is great. So if you say, I want to do a lot of what we talked about today, assessment and feedback. So they talk about creating assignments, attaching rubrics and so on. You say, you know what? I'm going to work through all of these. They have ones for secondary educators and elementary educators. And then they have this takeaway activity, which is brilliant. So if you do all the learning, at the end, you can say, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to use the activity feed to create a quick submission, or I'm going to create a rubric. I know I haven't shown you how to create a rubric, but certainly that's something that if you're a self-directed learner, take the time to sift your way through those videos, or certainly reconnect with your TELT contact or someone in your school board, which can certainly help you through, or one of us here at D2L. Next, again, if you want your TELT contact, visit that site. This is our VLE training for educators, which is officially over today, but that's where you'll find all of the slide decks and webinars posted, recordings there. If you have time this afternoon, there's the last of the immersion series training with Krista Hardy from D2L, who does a wonderful job digging deeper into these tools, and really you leave being able to do what you want to do in any of the tools. It's an outstanding series that Krista's offering there. There's a standard site for our D2L education webinars, which is really an archive version, and then looking forward as well. And you saw the thing about the recorded sessions and the 1-minute and 2-minute workflows. And then finally, there's the Brightspace community, which we would love you to belong to. This is what it looks like. It does ask you to become a member. You don't have to become a member. We would like you to become one because we would love to hear your experience. As I said earlier, lots of D2Lers contribute a lot here, but lots of Ontario educators contribute as well. They take their own time to share their experience. I think teachers just love sharing in general, at least a lot of the ones that I know. Under topics, there's instructor-specific resources. So if you're an instructor, you can go there. You can actually direct your students here, and there's learner resources. If they need to know anything about Brightspace, groups, discussions, and so on. I would be remiss if I didn't show you the YouTube channel. There's a link to the D2L YouTube channel, which has a number of playlists that you can go through. So for instance, if you go here, there's 4 videos you can quickly watch about getting started for instructors. And as you scroll through, there's more for you there. So a wonderful tool there. So thank you again. That concludes our session today, as well as the 4 sessions that many of you belong to. So thank you so much for coming in. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to meet you virtually again. And good luck in the school year, and be safe. Thank you.